What were some inventions people thought would be essential in everyday life that at the present are not? Anybody else remember that period of like 3 to 4 months where the world was convinced that segways were going to be so important that cities would be built around them? Instead, they're mostly just there for mall security and tourist traps. Hoverboards tried to make the same revolution a decade later and yeah, same nothing. My understanding is that they failed in part because it was unclear whether they should be ridden on the sidewalk, or in the street. Lots of disability activists didn't want them on the sidewalk and the bicycle lobbyists didn't want them in the bike lane. My dad owns a collection of old magazines, from around 1930s or so, in which the author illustrated how he thought the future would be in the year 2000. Helicopters were the thing that shocked me the most. He believed that cars would go out of date and every family in America would own a helicopter. Every single house would have a heliport in the backyard, and there were going to exist helicopter parking lots. I think that was stupid and it's just inconvenient if you ask me. But what do I know? Jetpacks, man. They've been the dream of every sci-fi fan for ages, and we've seen some wild prototypes pop up over the years. But nope, we're still not zipping around like the Jetsons, all thanks to stuff like crazy costs, safety worries, and the fact that they can only keep us airborne for a hot minute. Bummer, right? Hats. Up until 70 years ago everyone wore a hat and the style and materials of that hat defined your social class. It was unthinkably uncivilized to leave one's home without a hat on. Even for men. This was the way things worked for centuries. Then poof, hats disappeared from most daily fashions. You know those skateboards with 2 wheels? I used to want one so badly, because I thought everyone rode them and would ride them, but a few years later I don't see a single person riding a skateboard like that anymore. More tablets. Almost everyone used to use them, everyone had them, but now I rarely see anyone using a tablet instead of a phone. They even used to make phone calls, though. That's because skateboards with 4 wheels are much easier to ride and already existed. I just answered a call with my iPad yesterday. I was surfing Reddit and my phone was in the other room on a charger. They still exist, and you can definitely make or take calls. Apple has a handoff from your phone, so even iPads without phone hardware or connection can do it. Yeah, tablets are still very much around, but they became less big smartphones and more touch-screen PC alternatives instead. Android tablets failed because even though the software is good, apps were almost never developed with tablets in mind, so they were almost all just inflated phone apps. When Apple, love them or hate them, put more effort into marketing them as creative workstations with things like the iPad Pro and morphed the rest of the line to be cheaper versions of that rather than the iPad Pro being a more expensive shinny bells and whistle version of the base model, developers took advantage of that and it really became that third category of devices that Steve Jobs talked about in the original keynote. iPadOS certainly isn't perfect and is still missing some basic functionality, but since I got my iPad Pro, I hardly touch my laptop. It can do 90% of what a standard Mac or Windows PC can, and the apps that are optimized for it, which is the overwhelming majority of them nowadays, make things like content creation so much more intuitive than a mouse and keyboard setup. Even on a touchscreen Windows PC it's just not the same, and I have owned and used all of the above. It's not gonna be replacing any workstations anytime soon, but for most independent content creators it's a very compelling option that does the job as good if not better than traditional laptops. I remember people going crazy over the Google Glasses and augmented reality. Then there was the quantum computing. And there was this thing about graphite or graphene changing the world. Google also had a Facebook killer for a while and then it died on release. Motorcycles in the USA, almost every other nation uses them to combat against inflated gas prices. Not here lol, we doubled down on cars. I feel like televisions are on the cusp right now. Growing up before 2000, it would have seemed strange if a classmate said they didn't have a TV in their house. Now, so many get their entertainment streamed over phone or computer, I'd no longer be surprised to hear someone goes without one. I still don't know what a slide rule is and I'm too afraid to ask. To be fair, they were never essential in everyday life unless you were an engineer or mathematician or something in that field. Interesting skill to learn nonetheless, if kind of useless in this day and age. Used to keep one on my desk at work and actually used it from time to time. Yup, I'm a nerd. It's simpler to use than one would assume, but it takes practice to get used to it. I learned it because there are watches with slide rules on them, but without continued practice the knowledge has eroded away. When I was a kid, everyone assumed it was a picture phone. So everyone could see the face of whoever they are talking to. Fast forward to today, where every Zoom meeting we have no one turns their own camera on because we hate what we look like. Is my hair that gray? Ugh, turn the camera off. Flying cars and Android housekeepers are things I was led to believe would be ubiquitous by the time I was starting my own family. Here I am almost 40 and neither is likely to become essential in my lifetime. Or my son's. It's not rosy, but Roombas are becoming popular. Maybe PDAs. Personal digital assistants. It was going to be a daily use electronic for keeping track of what you needed to do every day and the information needed for those days, such as phone numbers, dates, etc. You would always have it with you and it would be the tracker for your daily life. It would well assist you as a personal digital device. I bought one myself, but never used it and I don't think it caught on. People thought video calls would completely replace all telephone calls. Now it's mainly texting and a lot of people find video calls annoying. Even during 2020 lockdown my two brothers hated having Zoom dinners and we eventually stopped doing them. To be fair, my one brother is an urban planner and had to be on Zoom pretty much all day. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe for more videos.